Looking to stock up on high-quality Ayurvedic herbs? I've partnered with two of my trusted sources, Kerala Ayurveda and Gary and Son, to offer you 20% off their entire range of authentic products. From classical formulas to single herbs and seasonal must-haves, these are staples I use in my own practice. Use code Ojas Oasis for Kerala Ayurveda, Ojas Oasis 20 for Gary and Son. Links are in the show notes. Supporting your healing journey just got a little bit easier. In Ayurveda, nourishment isn't only about what we take in for the body, but also what we offer the heart. That's why we're honored to share Aura Cacao, a ceremonial grade cacao we've chosen as a dharmic partner for the Ojas Oasis community. Aura Cacao supports meditation, heart-opening rituals, and moments of conscious presence. As an exclusive gift for our listeners, use Ojas Oasis 20 for 20% off, and you'll find the link in the show notes. Welcome to Ojas Oasis, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets the modern being. I'm your host, Sasha Brzezinski, Ayurvedic doctor and guide on this journey into the heart of holistic wellness. Snatam Kaur is a world-renowned, Grammy-nominated devotional singer, touring musician, teacher, and author, known for her luminous voice and deeply embodied teachings. For decades, she has carried the ancient practice of mantra and sacred sound into modern spaces, helping audiences around the world experience the healing power of devotional music. She also happens to be my favorite artist, my neighbor, and my dear friend. What she means to me and to so many is something beyond words, pure grace. In a world saturated with noise and isolation, many of us are longing for real connection. One of the most powerful and ancient ways we remember that connection is through chanting together. Group chanting is more than singing. It is shared breath, shared rhythm, shared vibration, and when voices rise together, something shifts. Separation softens, the nervous system settles, the heart opens. In this conversation, Snatam and I explore why chanting in community is such potent medicine, how mantra works whether we understand the words or not, why singing together dissolves loneliness, and how devotional practice creates a sacred space where healing naturally unfolds. Her music has walked with me for over 8 years through spiritual initiation, heartbreak, devotion, and becoming. I am one of many whose lives have been shaped and softened by her songs. On behalf of everyone who has ever been carried by her voice, it is an honor to share this conversation. If you are curious about the science and spirituality of mantra, meditation, and the healing intelligence of sacred sound, or how singing together can restore connection to yourself and to each other, this episode is for you. Let's get to our chat. Is there an invocation we should start with? Like a prayer? I saw you do this.
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
Is there one that comes to mind?
I guess we'll just do the Om Namo.
Om Namo. Yeah.
Yeah. Om Namo Guru Dev Nam. Guru Dev Sadguru Name, Jugadguru Name, Satguru Name, Sri Gurudev Name, Adguru Name, Jugadguru Name, Satguru Name, Sri Gurudev Name, Adguru Name, Jugadguru Name, Satguru Name, Sri Gurudev.
Thank you so much for opening with that. That was amazing. Thank you. Okay. So, Sanatam, thank you so much, first of all, for coming and being here on Ojas Oasis. And it's been so special, like just getting to know you, and the fact that we're both in Austin at this time feels so divinely orchestrated. Like I was meditating on this last night and also this morning on just how it just feels incredibly serendipitous and also just, again, divine and like meant to be, that we are both here at this time and that we found one another in this huge, huge world. It sometimes feels really small, but, and we've just, yeah, I have cherished our time getting to know each other and being neighbors and being in Austin and growing our community here, which feels in and of itself so healing, just to be around like-minded dharmic souls. So the theme today is the power of group chanting, and organically it just so happens that we live in the same building, that you are my favorite artist, and that I've been listening to your mantras in my heart for 8 years, ever since I started studying Ayurveda. When that dharmic calling came to me in my life, I was really looking for, again, like there was no one around me that was really understanding what is Dharma, what is Ayurveda. What do you mean you're just going to go study Ayurveda? Like, how? And explain to me the logic or like the experience that you're having. And so I was really looking for community, and somehow I was brought to your music. And that was my first real like exposure, I would say, to like honestly just not feeling alone and being like, oh my gosh, somehow through this music, through these mantras, I am feeling more connected to like-minded people. Like I'm not alone in this. So that has truly, from the day I met you, one of the first things I told you was your music has held me in moments where I felt really alone. And of course, we're never alone. We're always with the divine and we're all connected, but still we're human. And sometimes it can still just feel that way. So your music has had this incredible impact in my life, opened my heart, it was pretty open, but I felt like a balm from the mantras and from the sound and the instruments. And then meeting you here in Austin and connecting, and then getting to gather with other community members in a circle and chant these mantras in person has just been like, I have to pinch myself sometimes. I'm like, how is this even, how? Like, thank you, God. And also, wow. And what's happened is like now we have these recurring group chanting sessions, if you want to call them that. And I never really opened, my eyes stay closed the whole time. So I don't know what other people are experiencing, but I can tell you that I am floating. I'm just like, I totally start floating, levitating. And so we were walking one day and I said, I think it'd be so fun to do a podcast together. And then you were like, yeah, group chanting. And I was like, of course it's going to be about group chanting and the power and the healing that we feel when we gather in community and chant these mantras. So my first question to you, my dear friend, is how did the group chanting find you in your life first? Was this something that you've been doing since childhood. What was your first experience with this, and what led you down this path?
Well, I want to first say that, thank you so much for, spotting me from across the Third Eye Yoga Center courtyard and yelling out. And it was perfect for me to, just connect with somebody who's so warm and outgoing and effervescent with love. And it's been really wonderful to, have that connection. And I think that's such a key, part of my spiritual practice is actually connection. Living in community and practicing with others. And I grew up with all of this in the 3HO and Kundalini yoga community, where that was very much a part of my life, so, doing group chanting and whatnot. My parents would, when I was pretty young, I guess maybe like 4 or 5 or so, my parents we lived in an ashram in Long Beach, and they would take me to across the street to the beach, where we would sometimes do the morning practice, like out on the beach. A lot of times it was inside in the practice room, but every once in a while it would be out on the beach. And I really, connected to this kind of group practice. My mom would say that, or my mom told me that I would kind of be asleep for most of the practice, which included like yoga and chanting. So the yoga first and then the chanting. And I would always kind of pop up at the chanting time. I've since then gotten really into the yoga part too, but that was a key part for me. But having these kind of special opportunities to chant and in environments that I really loved and was nurtured by was really the seed of that for me as a young child. And then I received just a lot of like love and support from the community in terms of, people being appreciative of, sometimes I would like write tunes and they were like really appreciative of that. I grew up in the Bay Area, and in that particular community, including my mom, they're just like people that just really loved music. And it was something that, every Sunday we would gather, and it was like juicy, kind of a thing. And that was with the kind of the yoga community, 3HO, more of like the Western Sikhs, or the, I guess, people that had adopted the Sikh lifestyle and the yogic lifestyle, but were perhaps born in America or from Jewish parents, and like both you and I have.
Yes, that's another thing we have in common.
Yeah. But then also in the Bay Area, there was a community of Punjabi, from India, Sikhs as well. And my family and I would go to like home kirtan programs, home music programs. And I really connected as well with that kind of really organic feel of music. And, just the, I guess the definition of beauty, for me at that point became something different. It was, who is the musician that could take the whole group to an ecstatic place? Like that was, and I remember there's this one young woman that came one time from the UK, and she led the group in some chanting, and it was just ecstatic. And I just remember she was maybe a couple of years older than me, and I just like, she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And it wasn't like she was, wearing makeup or had like a particular outfit on, but it was like this, yeah, it was her voice and where she took us and the experience that we all had with her singing, and the community really honored that too. Like, she was really beloved. And so just my whole calibration in terms of what I consider to be beautiful and fun and loving and wonderful was really like centered around these kinds of like music experiences. Yeah. Then as a teenager, again, I think I was really blessed. Like the particular friends that I had, somehow it was cool to meditate. Somehow it was cool to do yoga. There was kind of a group of us that were like really into it. And, and I think that was just kind of a, blessing from the divine. And so as a teenager, we had these like a summer survival camp. It's kind of strange in some way. Like we were learning how to, survive out in the wilderness and marching and learning how to, target practice with guns.
Wow.
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting like situation. It was part of like the spiritual community. It was like good to be tough as well, kind of a thing. And we would all sleep under like a huge shelter in this an outdoor shelter in the desert, New Mexico, in the high desert, and that's where we had these community gatherings for summer solstice. But the teens would come and kind of take over for a week or so, and we were all like sleeping in sleeping bags under the shelter. And the next day we would get up and do calisthenics and take a hike and learn how to eat things from nature if we were out, stuck in nature. So we were all totally exhausted, and we'd fall asleep on this like cement floor with, of course, like a mat or whatever, like a camping mat, but still. And I got it in me one morning because I guess I'd received enough like encouragement or from my friends, like that somehow I felt like okay about doing this. But I got up one morning and started playing the morning chants that I'd been practicing at the time, and like with a bunch of sleeping teenagers. Yeah. And when I finished, some of my friends got up and they're like, "Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you. We were just listening." And so it was like this kind of positive reinforcement and, just support that was really magical in my life. I think. And then my mom was always like, she's a passionate musician and devotional singer. And she was always like, "Can you come sing with me? Can you come sing with me? Can you come play drums? Can you do that?" And I remember just being so annoyed, just like, "Oh," your mom's like asking you all the time. Yeah. But I would, and there were some pretty magical moments of just morning practice, just kind of etheric, connection early in the morning, playing music, chanting. Oftentimes people, would come to our ashram and chant with us, but, not very many people because it's just not super popular time, like 5:00 in the morning to be chanting. Right. But some really cool experiences like that. And at a certain point, I moved to Eugene, Oregon, and there was a kind of a hardcore group of us that were really into getting up and chanting every morning. And we wanted to, we loved the experience, and we wanted to like get more people to come. So I remember we put together some flyers and put them up all over town, like free chanting, 5 a.m. And I remember like the next day we were expecting just to be like troves and troves of people, but nobody showed up. Wow. For months and months. And we just kind of kept at it. But there would be like a trickle of people that would come in. But because we had all these flyers up all over town, I felt like I needed to just like come and be there. And sure enough, someone would come and be like, "Oh, I saw the flyer up in my restaurant, and I'm a waitress there, and I've been meaning to come for 2 months now, and I just love chanting, and I finally made it." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna show up." And many of those mornings, like nobody came, but I was doing it for that in service, I guess, for other people. And I think because of that, a certain kind of grace came, and I kind of learned about chanting, because sometimes it would just be me and in the practice room, and I'd always open up the windows, and some mornings it'd be raining, and so I kind of would tune into the elements, and I learned how to kind of sing to the space, like no matter who showed up or what showed up, or if it was raining, or if whatever it was, what my personal dramas or traumas were. And after an hour of chanting, usually any dramas or traumas would kind of work themselves out. And yeah, so I've gained a lot in terms of my experience through that dedication to group chanting. So I kind of gravitate towards that now in my life continuously. To how can I serve and how can I connect with other people?
Feeling drained, stressed, or stuck in old patterns? Panchakarma is Ayurveda's ultimate reset, clearing toxins, balancing your doshas, and restoring your vitality from the inside out. At Soham Healing Resort, every detail is designed for your transformation. Personalized therapies, nourishing meals, and deep rest in a serene sanctuary. As an Ojas Oasis listener, you'll receive $500 off your Panchakarma retreat with code OJASOASIS PK2025. These retreats book quickly and often far in advance, so don't wait to reserve your place today. Visit sohamhealing.com/panchakarma, and you'll also find the link and code waiting for you in the show notes. Yeah, the word dedication is big, and you also mentioned the word devotion, and you mentioned your mom was a devotional singer, and when people ask me it's so funny. I get asked this a lot when I don't know why this is such a common question. Maybe this is just a social thing. People want to get to know you. So like, what kind of music are you into? I get this question all the time. And I kind of every single time I'm like a little nervous because I don't really know how to answer it. Because I don't listen to a whole lot of music. I pretty much just listen to devotional music. I mean, sometimes like the solfeggio frequencies or like very little pop music, like very little. I mean, once in a while, sure. When I'm in social settings, of course, like other people are in charge of the playlist. But when I'm by myself, Snatam, it's pretty much just you and me singing with, the other people that you feature on the mantras, on the chanting. And that's very much enough for me. I don't really need a whole lot in the rotation because there's so many different chants. And honestly, sometimes I just have it on a loop. I'll just have like By Thy Grace, the song that we sang together yesterday. And as you walk this path, the devotional path, I just feel like you're just drawn to other devotional beings and you're drawn to devotional work. And you can feel the devotion in the music, in the frequency of the sound and that's the kind of the beauty of Sanskrit, actually, is that it's a whole language built on frequency and vibration, and how those vibrations actually change us, right? On a cellular level. And it's kind of magic. But learning even just the foundation of Sanskrit in my Ayurvedic education, we had to do like intro just to like learn the alphabet and how to pronounce all the different words and the exasperated, sounds and things. It's so incredibly healing to just listen to it, but also to sing it. I was wondering how you experience the difference between listening to it versus singing it or hearing other people in a room, and how when people gather, how that actually increases the power of the chanting. Like the more people come together, how that increases the potency of the vibration and the frequency. And do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like, it's almost like in an herbal formula, in an Ayurvedic herbal formula, there's a science to obviously creating the formula. There's a chief ingredient, then there's like all these supporting herbs. And of course, there's a way to take it that's going to increase the medicinal value of it. So I'm wondering how you add more and more people in a space, you gather more people, and you're all singing together. What happens in a huge like event space, for example, when we're all chanting by thy grace together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I would say it's not necessarily related to the numbers, because if it was, then it would be a whole different ball game for me. It's kind of like what kind of awakens the mind, and what you believe, what opens your heart, and what connects you with the chanting. And so at night, I actually do FaceTime with my mom, and we do kirtan together. Oh. And I love just like seeing her face and chanting with her. And so in that case, it's like just the one person, is all that's needed.
Right.
But it's helpful in group practice, because there might be somebody that comes into the group setting that happens to either come with experience with meditating, and so they can kind of sink in more deeply, or something magical happens to them and they just go deep, maybe for the first time. And then that is really helpful for everybody in the group experience, because we really are connected beings. We really are affected by each other and by our energies. And so, that's really the power in group chanting. And if you're, in a living room with people and they're all chanting, that's pretty inspiring,
Yes.
pretty uplifting. Or if you're in a concert hall and 2,000 people like sing at the top of their lungs, that's pretty inspiring. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of just like looking at ways to create inspirational moments, but still, even if you create those inspirational moments, your mind can still be disengaged. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a clockwork like that. Like, okay, well, got the 2,000 seat venue filled and there's lots of people in there singing at the top of their lungs, mm-hmm. One's mind could still be removed and not really connecting, and then you don't really feel much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's the presence and the intention, and really dropping in and connecting to what it is you're chanting.
Yeah. And so there's just a little bit more of a chance of that happening in a group setting. Well, not a little bit more of a chance. There's a lot more of mm-hmm. a chance. Mm-hmm. And it does pretty much happen. I mean, it happens for me with that kind of magic point, and the turning point and the connection to the divine happens in group chanting, even when I'm kind of struggling mentally or emotionally. In some ways, with the group practice, one may kind of get chiseled by the group as well, because if you're, say, you're not feeling like super connected or inspired, and you're just kind of on your own and you're chanting, you might chant for a little bit, but maybe not quite long enough to really get the energy flowing and get things moving. And you might just kind of move on and go back to your, ho-hum complaining life and all the challenges, and stop playing music and go and start making dinner or doing the laundry, or, mm-hmm. all of the myriads of things. You might not kind of sit your butt down long enough to practice, mm-hmm. long enough to mm-hmm. chant, to feel that chiseling, to, because the chants themselves kind of like scrub. It's kind of like having a sponge, and that has the green side,
yeah.
And you scrub the grime off.
Grime, yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of what chanting is. That's why we kind of repeat over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, some people are like, why are you doing that? It's so boring, But if you kind of have experience with it, you kind of keep scrubbing. And after a time, you feel clean and light, and like it kind of lifts you out of the dysregulation and brings you back to regulation, or brings you back to your whole self, or back to the experience of light, or however you want to, describe it. So in group practice, you might, sit down longer than you would.
Right. Yeah.
in private. And then you also might get inspired, like, whoa, hear somebody's voice or feel somebody's energy. And it kind of does something to shift your mind to get back into the focus. I mean, we're really like communal creatures. We really learn from each other and connect more deeply with each other's help. And then we also get distracted with each other's help too. So there's the many experiences of being human and being alive. So having sacred community, people that gather regularly and chant together is really helpful, just for being able to remember how to chant and how to go deep.
And to inspire, like you said, to keep going, because it's repetition and it's amazing. I mean, I've never even questioned the efficacy because I've experienced it right off the bat. From the moment I first started listening to your music, I was feeling it and I didn't really know what was happening, right? But when you describe it as like this scrubbing, this cleaning, I would love to ask actually about the science of that. How does mantra actually cleanse us? Is it emotional? And I mean, I feel that's my experience, but I think you would be the perfect person to ask, like, how does mantra actually clean us out? And is there a magic amount of repetition? Is it that magic 108 number that we love in yoga and Ayurveda? And only by repeating it over and over and again, we can actually get the effect of the mantra. Is that how it works?
Yeah. I mean, maybe like 5-10 years ago, I would have been like, this is the science and this is the this and this is the that. And I'm kind of gotten pretty humbled by life experiences. And, I think it's in a way like it's a form of retraining the mind and the psyche to exist as beings of light. And these mantras that we're chanting really call upon and bring awareness to light and love existing within each of us and within our lives, and being the reality. So in our world, we're we're often hypnotized by the challenges and the traumas and dramas and dysregulated that way. So it's a matter of replacing the dysregulation with more positive vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
And gathering together in a group setting is really powerful because it can kind of awaken a sense of belief again, or faith or hope, kind of take one out of the darkness of challenge. But the practice needs to continue on a personal level in one's life of replacing, replenishing, nourishing again and again and again, as we're affected by the news or affected by the challenges of people around us. There are all sorts of things that we're making choices about in terms of what to consume and what to take in and what to give out. And so the mantra practice, just is a way to create positive vibrations. You don't necessarily even have to know the meaning of what you're chanting, although that helps. It's nice, but you can also just chant. And I've known plenty of people that just chant. They have no idea what they're chanting, and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. It still works.
Yeah,
just as well.
It still works. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a really powerful thing about mantras and meditation with the mantras, because I feel that when we're chanting them, we tune into like everyone before us in time that has chanted. And so we're kind of participating in a
lineage.
Yeah.
Of people who have preserved these, passed them on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's also another kind of magic point. Like there are people that have chanted these chants in times of great ecstasy and joy who've reached, samadhi, who have reached nirvana and have reached enlightenment through the chants. And I strongly believe that we are connecting with their experience on some subtle level. And then there are also people that have experienced and utilized the mantras in times of great challenge. I remember hearing a story of somebody that was caught in the World Trade Center and was escaping and came back to mantra at that point. And also, like in Sikh history, there are many stories of Sikhs utilizing mantra for courage and bravery, especially in the time of like battle and standing up. In the Sikh history, which is my spiritual tradition, the Sikhs stood up to the Mughal Empire, which is kind of a big deal. 100 Sikh soldiers kind of ragtag team to like 1,000 Mughal professional warriors. And so then the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, taught the Sikhs to utilize mantra in battle. So it gave them courage in the face of battle. Wow. Which I could use like a lot of right now.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, it's great. We're having this podcast kind of remind me a little bit.
But the truth is that it doesn't take, like, we all have an inner battle, and it doesn't take a whole country to have a war to feel like sometimes that there's this inner, this conflict, this turmoil that we're experiencing. We, like you said, we're always interacting with our surroundings and with people in our lives, and they could be experiencing a vast array of challenges, and we're impacted by one another. Like you said, we are communal creatures. We feel just as we feel one another's harmony and ecstasy and inspiration and effervescence, as you mentioned earlier. I love that word, just any excuse to use that word. But I feel that way about you. I feel like you're just this absolute, maybe it's all the mantras over all these years that you've been purifying this incredible, these subtle channels within yourself. And even still, we could be chanting these mantras for decades and life continues to change and challenge us in new ways. And that's the beauty. If we were just on autopilot all the time, we wouldn't be growing, we wouldn't be learning. And I think that deepens our capacity for connection, actually, is through the battles that we face together. And to be able to admit that, and like you said earlier, being humbled by life, that's another form, I think, of the scrubbing. Because if, I think like we can keep ascending spiritually, but I think sometimes the dangers of that can be kind of above all the human stuff. And then like all the humans are down there and you're up there, and then you feel that pedestal, complex. And then that feels so lonely, and that's why I'm on the podcast. I'm just always reminding people that I'm struggling with everyone too. It's sure I've learned this by thy grace, the divine. I've been able to learn the wisdom science of Ayurveda. I've learned about yoga. I've studied in India. I've had some great teachers, but we're down here on earth. Like, this is the earth. We're in a human body. And as time changes, everything is changing. We're changing. Our bodies are changing. And I so appreciate what you're saying about how the mantras are tools, basically, for us to summon courage, to summon strength, to summon community together, and just remind us, I think, like one of the biggest things, I think, is that we're not alone in this. And there's nothing more powerful that I think than a shared experience, whatever it may be. But of course, today we're talking about mantra specifically. And I love that you're even noting that like 5-10 years ago, you would talk more about the science aspect, like the technical, and that now your relationship with it has changed as you've changed. That's beautiful to me. I love that. You're allowed to change your perspective on things, and it reminds me a lot also like the discipline aspect of the practice of chanting and showing up even when you're tired and like you don't really. It's the same thing goes with like living an Ayurvedic lifestyle. And what that means is like waking up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, keeping routines, meals at certain times, consistent foods, eating seasonally, locally, mostly homegrown foods that are made with love, just to integrate it with the Ayurveda. Because I feel like, these traditions come from the same place. They come from the source, from the divine. And they really work really well together when they're integrated. Because I think like we can practice Ayurveda, but like most people in the modern world aren't. So part of the intention and the dharma of the podcast is really to introduce people to what does Ayurveda look like with other associated sciences, and also how does this work in the modern world? And is there a perfect way to do it? Is there which by the way, the word perfect, who came up with that?
Yeah, I think that some similarities like with Ayurveda and chanting in terms of how we can connect Ayurveda and chanting into kind of the modern day, world, and how the two can be kind of relevant, I guess,
yes,
into our daily lives. I think that it's really helpful to maintain the tradition and, really understand the history of chanting. And probably the same can be said for Ayurveda, but I'll just focus on the chanting. To understand the language. The chants that I do are in Gurumukhi, which is a sacred language of the Sikhs that came in the 15th century of northern India. And the practice really revolves around singing and chanting these sacred words, and there's healing and wisdom in them. And our practice comes from really celebrating and honoring these words. And I think that what's allowed my music to kind of get out there and to become known is an honoring of the tradition and the meaning, and having a connection and a daily practice with chanting. So it's not necessarily, it's not just a performance, but in the earthly realm, but it's also like a performance on the heavenly realm for the angels and the great masters of this tradition. And there's a connection that goes a bit deeper. But one thing that I've learned, especially from my mom, is that it's really helpful and important to be tuned into kind of what's working for you, what's flowing for you, and what excites you, as a musician, and what kind of brings joy to you. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to ask these questions and work with musicians. I really enjoyed their musical playing and enjoyed the collaboration. Some of my music has a little bit of country feel. Some has a little bit of a pop feel. All of these, and then some has more of a traditional feel. Some have like a kind of classical music feel. All of these things are kind of musical elements that I grew up with and that I connect with and that do something for me and kind of awaken me and my consciousness. And so it's not like a traditional, which I love traditional Sikh music using the original instruments and of the time and the notation patterns and all that. I absolutely love that practice, but it's not really like what I know. And so the music that I've done throughout the years kind of connects with all of these elements of things that I love and that bring me joy. And so I think that's really important in terms of bringing these ancient sciences into modern day life, and then also just coming back to the relevance of which chant is connecting with me at this time? What's alive for me now? What message am I receiving now? And guidance. I feel like the mantras themselves come to us and live and breathe within us. And so it's really important to all pay attention to, this mantra is kind of awakening something in me right now, and I want to chant this mantra now. And sometimes people ask me, well, like, do you know a good mantra for childbirth? Do you know a good mantra for, somebody who's on their deathbed? Do you know a good mantra for somebody that's going through a healing challenge and needs healing? And while I could technically like look at the meaning of mantras and say, well, do this one and do that one, it'll help. And sometimes people like that. I much prefer for people to have a personal connection with mantras themselves and then see which one comes to you, which one kind of awakens something within you. And then that's the one that you need to be using, because I don't really believe that one particular mantra is particularly good for one's deathbed, or one particular mantra is particularly good for, I think that we're each sovereign beings, and that we can be affected by whatever mantra is needed at that time. So I have an online school where I teach mantras on a weekly basis. It's called Kirtan and Kundalini. And I teach people, and we'll spend like 4 classes, once a week for a month on a particular mantra. And then, people then get an experience of that mantra, and then we'll move on to another one, and then we'll move on to another. And then the idea is that somebody would have a toolbox of mantras so that when life happens, as it does.
Cue baby crying.
Yes. Yeah. That you can, have your toolbox and choose, and you kind of become your own mantra medicine doctor.
Yes. Inner guru.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, I love that so much. I can't help but draw the comparisons. First, I want to just say I totally agree with what you were talking about with honoring the tradition. That's how we grow and honor, of course, honor and keep it relevant by keeping the roots nourished. Because I think the deeper those roots go, and these roots are very deep, these mantras have been around longer than the written word. So they echo throughout space and time. So I totally feel that same way, that we are connecting with all that ever has been, all that ever was, and that all that ever will be through sound. But I have such a resonance with what you're touching on about the deeper we are rooted, the more we can grow, just like a tree, any plant really, and us as human beings as well. When we're grounded, when we feel grounded, literally, when we feel grounded in our lives, when we have safe space to call home, when we have safe friends to confide in, when we have family members who love us, who just are there for us, or to just share quality time and play and laugh and play games and cook meals and gather around. And that literally roots us in this world. Without that, it can feel very difficult to feel like you want to learn new things or go out and explore when you don't have that root chakra really creating like a sense of security, stability. And gosh, the time we're living in, 2026, is a lot of fast movement, a lot of change, constant change. But the pace is the biggest factor, I think. Things will always change. They always have. But I just think the rapid pace. So the practice of chanting mantra slows us down. It literally slows the breath down. And we're sitting for most of all the group chanting that we've done together in the past few weeks, or maybe it's been like over a month now, I'm not sure, but I've come to every single one. And I just love sitting on the floor in a circle on a cushion and even just keeping that consistent, honestly. It's like every Friday at this time, we're going to meet here, same place with the same people. Sometimes some new people will come. Sometimes some people can't make it, but like same core people. And that consistency and stability, being on the earth again, earth element, that's so Ayurvedic. Like it's so good for Vata dosha. It's so stabilizing for the nervous system. And yeah, there's just something so simple and profound about honoring the roots from which all of this comes. And by doing that, I do think that there's a reciprocity to what you're talking about with the blessings that come, like these vibrations that we sing together, these mantras, the vibrations go out. And I actually feel like they're impacting not only those of us in the room, but I actually can feel this light emanating to the whole building and the whole city. And then it just keeps spreading the ripples because again, I think there is magic in that repetition. I wish I could articulate it better, but I'm visualizing this light beam just growing like an auric field, kind of an aura, an Ojas glow, maybe, if you will, a glow of Ojas that serves as this like protective field of energy that and you even say, like, you know, in the beginning of each mantra, you do such a beautiful job of teaching what these, you break down the mantra and what each word, I don't know, do we call them words? Yeah, sure. We'll call them words, what they mean. And then you also invite us to send that to somebody that we know that we think could really use the healing or the intention. And you also invite us to send it to ourselves. But I'm always thinking, gosh, I just hope everyone in the world, right? Like also like the whole earth, like all beings, all sentient beings. And then it becomes prayer. It becomes this collective prayer that we're doing.
Yeah. 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 It's really beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. You've kind of said so much.
I know. Like, sorry. I don't even know what just happened, but
no, I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I do like the power of group practice, and the regularity is very grounding, vata balancing, to have something that you can kind of count on and be dedicated to. I love that, especially in our lives and all that we're dealing with, that we can have practices where we remember who we are, remember that we're light and love and divine souls and connected. So, yeah.
And so are the people that sometimes cause us pain. Yeah, so much of this is remembering, which I think that's why, yeah, I'm so drawn to all things that stand the test of time. So, yeah, it's just so beautiful. I love the integration piece of community. Again, just coming back to community, keeping this practice consistent, understanding the roots of it and the tradition of it. How might one practice this alone if one does not yet have a community to chant with? How does this become a personal practice that can still yield that same kind of effect? Where would one start with that, other than going to your school and learning from you? Of course, that would be like where I would point people in the direction of.
Yeah, I do think community is really helpful, and it's one of the great blessings of COVID, and that we all kind of hopped on Zoom, and now we can experience things from all over the world, and we don't necessarily have to live in a particular city to garner the knowledge and the experience. So I would recommend that. And for me, coming to a new city and everything, and feeling overwhelmed and shy and all of those things, I can relate to what it must feel like to kind of feel alone. I definitely felt that way. And I think you just kind of have to put one foot in front of the other and put a prayer out to find maybe just one other person that likes chanting, and see what happens. And then connect with it. Maybe you start off with listening to chanting in the car together or whatever, and you sing along and becomes like road trip music or something. And then maybe you kind of graduate to listening to chanting while you're cooking together, and all the different experiences of life. And then with my online school, we have an actual beginner's harmonium course. You can learn how to play the chant yourself.
Harmonium.
Yeah. It's a keyboard instrument for people unfamiliar, from India, a pump organ, basically. And you can learn. We have 3 chants from my music that one can learn. And we have like about 4 courses you can take over time and get a little catalog, and then just invite a bunch of people over and play some chants for them.
Yes.
We also have a tabla, the percussion instrument. We have a tabla course as well.
So Perk teaches that?
No, the percussionist that works with me, Sukhmani, teaches it.
Sukhmani.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Snatam, I cannot wait for our next one, for our next chanting. And it's just such a joy every time we connect in any way. Thank you for just sharing your light. Thank you so much for what you've meant to me in my journey. And I know I speak on behalf of so many people that just want to say thank you for your dedication, your watering of the roots of this tradition, bringing and preserving this practice in modern times, and keeping it alive and continuing to show up. And I know so many people around the world are going to be so excited for your tour that's starting this spring. I'm going to miss you here in Austin, but I know you're going to end the tour in Austin, so I'll be at that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to know you and to be part of your really wonderful effort to help people. Sorry, Veda.
Before you go, if you're ready to dive deeper into your healing, check the show notes to book a 45-minute exploratory call with me. If you mention you're a subscriber of the podcast, you'll get 50% off your initial intake consultation. A 2-hour deep dive, normally $400, now just $200. You'll also find exclusive 20% discounts on trusted Ayurvedic herbs from Kerala Ayurveda and Gary & Son. Just click the links to apply the savings automatically. Ojas Oasis is a labor of love, a podcast born from a deep desire to share the timeless wisdom of Ayurveda, Vedic ritual, and holistic healing with seekers around the world. Every episode is carefully crafted to bring you inspiring conversations, ancient insights, and practical tools for living a radiant, balanced life. If the show has nourished your spirit, helped you feel more seen, or guided you on your healing path, you can now support our work by buying us a coffee or golden milk. Your support goes directly toward producing high-quality episodes, keeping the podcast ad-light and mission-focused, expanding our offerings to serve you even more deeply, and whether it's a one-time cup or a monthly offering, we are so grateful. Click the link in the show notes to support the podcast and keep the wisdom flowing.